which is the holy grail for flipping. You don't make that much money on flipping. You just don't. So kind of an interesting story on this one. This was going to be a flip house. And we had gotten a phone call from someone who said they knew a person that knew a person. That happens in flipping and wholesaling and things like that. So a bank teller was talking to someone who was a customer of theirs, and she was talking about wanting to get rid of her relatives out of this house. And she had rented it to them, but then they wouldn't leave after all these years. It's like, we like it here, we're not leaving. And she didn't want to deal with that. It was too many emotions, too much family crap going on. So she decided she wanted to sell it. But she couldn't list it because these people wouldn't let anybody in to see it. So this teller told one of our friends about it, who was in the real estate business. And she said, look, I think I can get you this house for about $600,000. And I looked it up and I said, that seems like a pretty good deal to me. Because it was like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Venice, which I figured after I added on, an extra couple of bedrooms and, remodeled it and, made it much bigger and more expansive, we could probably get $1.2 million for it. So really, really good deal. Put a ton of money into it, but we could probably make about $200,000 profit, which is the holy grail for flipping. You don't make that much money on flipping. You just don't. It's usually, 30, 40 grand. I know some people are going to argue with that, but that's the reality of life. So anyways, she brought the deal to me. And then she told me at the time, she says, I'm getting the house for $500,000. I'm going to give it to you for $600,000 because I know what it's worth. She goes, but you have to close it. So basically she was wholesaling it to me. We were buying it. I signed an agreement with her that said I would give her $100,000 when we closed. Pretty sweet for her, right? The teller tells her about it. She tells me about it. I don't know if she gave the teller anything. I would doubt she would, but she made $100 grand just by making a phone call. Pretty cool. So we went over, we looked at the house. Like I said, we figured we're going to add a couple of bedrooms, add a couple of bathrooms, add a second story, really wow it out. So like I said, we went through the contract, we did the deal, she got paid, we got title to the house, and probably 2 days later I went there and took Lucy with me. Lucy's my dog. And we were looking at the house and she wouldn't go in it for some reason. And Lucy, she's super chill, super easy going. She would not. We'd get up halfway to the front door and she'd just stop. And I picked her up and I brought her inside, and all she did was she went by the front door and laid down and just... So eventually, she's never walked away from me in her life. So I eventually put her out in the front yard and said, okay, you just stay there and hang out and I'll be back out in a few minutes. Came back out and she was gone. Gone. I mean, Lucy is my baby. She is my baby. And she's never been more than 100 feet from me when we're out and about. She always keeps her eye on me. It's the first time she's ever left me before. And keep in mind, we're in Venice, which is Los Angeles, which has just a crap load of traffic. We're across the street from a little school, so lots of traffic going around. I walk outside, she's gone. So I've got the architect there, I've got contractor, Emmanuel was there, Emmanuel's dad was there, and boom, we all split up and start looking. Probably an hour I'm looking, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's gonna go across Venice Boulevard, she's gonna go across one of these big streets and she's gonna be dead. And I got a phone call from somebody that found her on a construction site about a half mile away. She walked up to the construction site because she's used to the sound of saws and everything. She figured, this is a safe place. And she had my phone number was on her collar and the guy called me. So I dried my tears and I went over there and went and got her, and I had tears. That's how emotional I was about the whole thing, which if you know me, that's not my MO. But got her back, took her back, but I put her in the car this time. During that time, apparently our title, had passed on to us on the computer, and I got a phone call from a real estate agent that had a house listed next door, and he said, hey, I got a client that might be interested in your house. They don't want the one I've got listed, but they want the house you've got. I just told them that it closed escrow. I didn't even know it was for sale, and I said, yeah, we bought it off market. And he goes, can I show it to him? And I said, well, yeah, but the thing is I'm going to be flipping it. So I'm going to make it, this big, 3,000 square foot house, and it's going to sell for probably 1.2. And he said, well, let me bring him over and take a look at it, and we'll see. And I said, all right, well, you can do that. I don't care. I had a lockbox on it. So they came over, and I got a phone call that day, and he said, yeah, they want it. And I said, okay. And he goes, what are you asking for it? I said, dude, it's not for sale. I just bought it to flip it. I'd already been to the city. I'd already had my architect out. We already had a footprint of what we wanted to do for the building plan, and it was going to be cool. And we were going to literally make 200 grand on the deal, which would have been my best flip ever at that time. And so I said, let's meet out at the property and go over it. So I met him out there, and he didn't want to bring the people by. He was afraid I was going to steal them or something. And he said, look, they're willing to pay whatever you want for it. And I said, I said, give me a number. And he goes, nope, they don't want to give you a number. They want to know what you want for it. And so usually in a deal like that, I'll try to see what they want to give me, because it may be more than I think, and then maybe I'll make more money, right? But on this one, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't budge on that. And I said, you got to have some number in mind. And he said, no, we don't. I said, all right. And I thought, well, I'm going to make 200 grand. If I don't have to go through all that, and I don't have to go through months of construction, it's going to be a 6-month project, and then we have to sell it. Of course, at that point, prices were going up, so I probably would have gotten 1.25 or something. So out of the thin air, I pulled a number out of my head. I said, you know what? 800 cash would do it. 800. And he said, ooh. And I said, take it or leave it. And he said, all right, I'll go to my client and see what they say. And right at that moment, I realized I came in too low. Because he didn't argue with me. He didn't say, oh, it's too high or anything. He just said, oh. So anyway, a couple hours later, I'm back at the office here. And he called me and said, okay, you got a deal. He said, the only thing is they can't pay cash. And he says, they got to finance it. He goes, but they're already pre-approved for the amount, and they can close in 2 weeks. And I said, that's interesting. I said, okay, I'll stick to the deal. And so we ended up selling the house to them. I think we owned it for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and we ended up selling it to them for a $200,000 profit, minus closing costs. So we had closing costs and some interest that we had to pay because of owning it. We had to pay, I think I ended up paying all of our investors 3 months interest or 2 months interest. I can't remember, because I told them up front, it's going to be a minimum 6 months, probably close to 9 months. So they put their money in, and I felt bad because it came out so fast. So I paid them for, I think, roughly 3 times the amount of time that we actually used their money. And they're still investing with us today. So they bought the house, and that was that. The one thing that happened in between, though, is the tenants that took forever to get out, we ended up making the homeowner do that, by the way. We didn't do it ourselves. We made them do it. We didn't close escrow until they were gone, the family. I helped talk to them and everything, but we wouldn't close it until that happened. They ended up coming back, and because they still had keys, and they came in and spray painted the inside of the house with red spray paint. They tagged it up, even though this is not a neighborhood where there's any tagging whatsoever. So that was the only negative to it. And the new owner said, please, could you please repaint the walls? Because we're going to move in as is for a while before we remodel. And I said, yeah. So Emmanuel went back, and I think they had to put 4 or 5 coats of paint on 2 bedrooms where they painted. And that was our rehab. So yeah, in and out, 3 weeks, $200,000 profit minus closing costs. I think we ended up with about 175, 180. Not bad for 3 weeks worth of work. And then 2 or 3 weeks of negotiation and whatnot. But basically, I had one of these, and that's how I made the money. And basically a piece of paper, this and this. That was it. That was That's how we made that money. And we've had a couple of deals like that since then, but nothing as profitable as that. That was just an amazing thing. But the thing is, there's deals like that out there. So yeah, you just got to find them. And if you're looking, you'll find stuff.